Welcome to the Core podcast. This one's a little bit special because it's just hosted by me. This collection of fantastic podcasts comes from a load of amazing, influential women in tech. I'm really excited to share this with you throughout October. I hope you enjoy. This podcast is a great one because it really starts with a personal message, I guess. Dhivya was personally introduced into going into cybersecurity by actually having her own phishing attack. It's a really great chat. It shows why she's really excited to be in this industry. And her 5 top tips for anyone thinking of getting in are really great because you don't really need anything except your own skills and just to go for it. So I hope you can join us. If for anyone listening, could you just tell me a little bit of background about yourself, your career journey and how you've ended up where you have? Because I think most women that I've spoken to on these talks haven't thought they were going to end up in tech or even end up in cyber. So could you kind of let me know about your journey and how you've ended up where you are today?
Absolutely. When I was in school, college, so I'm going a long way back, but so I thought I was very adamant, in fact, that I wanted to be a doctor, in fact, neurosurgeon.
Okay.
Didn't go well. In fact, it's very competitive and I didn't score enough to get into medicine. Just enough. It was like by points. And I could have gone on to study dental practice, but I didn't want it because I'm very adamant, as in if I want something and I want that. If not, when I say second option, at that point was computers. So naturally, gone on to the, IT world and, did everything I could to get onto my second option. So, it's good to have an alternative. That's how my introduction to IT was, as a second choice. I started off as a second choice, but I'm glad I chose this path.
Okay.
And how I ended up in security. So my kind of initial roles, as everybody does, or not everybody, majority of the people, start off as a support role, and then you move on from there. That's how I've seen, or start off as a graduate or apprenticeship. So that's how my journey has been, supporting computers, helping people turn the switch on and off, or what have you. It goes beyond that, but I'm just simplifying it.
Okay.
So that's how it started.
Yeah.
For me, the introduction in cybersecurity was an expensive affair. Unfortunately, I was a victim of a phishing scam. So that created a huge awareness in sort of cybersecurity world for me. This kind of more than a decade ago. And that I developed keen interest in cybersecurity from there, and then actively started looking for a role within the organization, where I worked at that time, to take up on project that involved or had key focus on security. So that's how my journey in the security field started, being a victim. And since then, I advocate security, and anybody talks to me about security, I just carry on talking. I'm very, very passionate about it. And I'm very grateful that I get to be in a job where I enjoy and I love and, and I'm passionate about. So, which is great position. So in a way, where I started, as I mentioned, it was the second choice, but then I'm grateful now that I'm so passionate about it. And I, get to work in that field where I love, and then there's a huge satisfaction that I help, the organizations that work with keep the bad guys off, So that's my journey.
So that experience of a phishing attack happening to you and your colleagues and things like that, what made you then think, right, because I think you can either go 2 ways, can't you? You can be like, oh, I want to stay well away from that, or where you were like, no, I actually want to protect. And what was it about that you thought, right, that's where I want to go down and that's where I want to learn more? Was it because of what happened to everybody? Was it because how easy it was that the phishing attack happened? Was there any element that really speared you into looking into it? Because I'm assuming not everyone you were working with that day decided to go the same route as you.
Yeah. Well, it was personal rather than work.
Okay.
So it was personal. So for me, I was fascinated by it to begin with. Wow, the mastermind behind it. And yes, it's more of a fascination. And then I felt, rather than a victim, I felt, oh my God, why did I not see this? A lot of, I think it's if you're a victim, there are two types, aren't there? Some people think that, oh, just go down, and then, as you said, that, I don't want anything to do with it anymore, and you back off, like totally closed approach. Whereas I was the other way. There are a group of people that, they kind of take it further to see, wow, this is like, how did I let it happen, and investigate what can you do and learn from it. So I was in that group, and I was fascinated by the way it went, and I tracked back how it was done, because it was more of a learning, how I didn't spot where, all those red flags. So went back and learned from it, almost kind of like my own theory around how it was done, and then learned from that. And then, I said, this is what I want to be, want to be more aware of it, learn, again, as you said, it was how easy it was to kind of fool anybody, or, take advantage of. So yes, and then, my kind of aim is to create the awareness of the moment. Since then, like, I should kind of enlighten myself, because, being a victim, and also share that awareness and enlighten people who don't know, what's going on around them in this digital world, including my parents, to start with, and your family, and, and your colleagues. Especially now I'm in this field, so, making sure my colleagues understand the impact, the risk behind the digital footprint they leave, we all leave behind. So so that's how I kind of started up taking on that interest.
So it personally impacted you and inspired you to get more involved. So how did you then educate yourself? So I appreciate you're a very intelligent woman and you picked it apart. But how did you educate yourself and then step up that career change into more security focused? Was there qualifications, or was there mentors, or was it roles and you learned, or what kind of was that education process for you?
So it was a combination of everything. So as I mentioned earlier, so actively looking for opportunity within the organization. So the first thing I did, go network with my security team at that point, because I wasn't part of security team, but network with the security team, looking for, this is something I like about the security industry. Everybody likes to help people. I'm not saying the other industry aren't, but then they like to kind of spread the knowledge, in comparison to IT and other industries that I've worked on. Maybe that's different now, but that's my kind of view on it. It's brilliant. They were all kind of open to it, especially they welcome anyone who's willing to learn, keen to learn, and passionate about it. So they kind of welcomed that attitude of mine, and I took shadowing experience in their team, and started sort of taking up sort of smaller sort of projects where I can sort of feed into. So again, use your experience, and then apply security to it. That's my view and message as well. Like, everything applies. All skills are transferable, irrespective of wherever you're from. And that's exactly what I did. Take your current skills and learn security and apply security. And open source resources is another area. When for the first thing I did, the Open University courses, cybersecurity, the introduction course, a great way to kind of get the initial learning or introduction to the security. And then that led to kind of more specific trainings, and vendors are amazing, the vendor-led trainings, and then podcasts and webinars, and a lot of offerings out there. Take up all of that's a great way to learn and upskill, and also acquire new skill set and knowledge. And that's what I've taken up in my journey.
We are really lucky with how much free resources there are nowadays. Even in the last 10 years, with, like, for my background being marketing, of how much is now, there's so many webinars that you can go to and events and things like that. Like you said, you can really empower yourself. I think what you said really interestingly, though, was that that your skill set with going into this industry really it lends itself to anything. Like it's quite a good industry to go into because it's quite flexible. And would you say for someone that's kind of driven a path into cybersecurity that it is open to anyone? Doesn't matter what background you've come from. Do you think that if someone wanted to pivot a career, or maybe like you said has been impacted, so now wants to do something more strategic or supportive or for a greater good, do you think any background you can get into this industry?
I 100% believe in that.
Yeah.
It's a general perception, isn't it, in kind of IT, or particularly cybersecurity, people think it's technical.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. There are room for non-technical stuff as well. It's not, if you want to be technical, absolutely you can. There are different sort of roles that you could perform in that. There are non-technical roles as well. So where you kind of, the assurance, risk assessment and audit as well as another point. So there are plenty of non-technical roles, as long as you have the, you understand the security principles and you learn the specific areas where you want, and it doesn't involve everything to do with technical. And another point I'd like to add is that nobody knows everything, and no one can know everything. So, and therefore I go back to my point to say all your skill set, irrespective of where you come from, they're all transferable in some way or the other. And then you apply the additional, skill set, in this case, be it security or whatever that is, you just apply on top. So yeah, absolutely.
And also security is really our favourite conversation in the office is not just an IT problem, is it? Every member of a team or of a company could have an impact on the security because unfortunately it gets discussed quite a lot in the industry that people are the weakest link. I don't know if that's technically true. It is a language that gets put out there, but we are open to human error, or we do have emotions and can be manipulated, like in a phishing attack and things like that. So I mean, I've found it all very interesting from when we did our ISO accreditations, and Cyber Essentials Plus was when I got interviewed, and I was just like, well, why am I getting interviewed? I'm in marketing. I've got nothing to do with this. And they were like, well, you do, because, you take people's data on the website, and what imagery you use is illegal, and all these sort of things. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, oh, I have a big impact. And it was like, oh, have you got 2FA on the LinkedIn accounts and the Twitter accounts? And I was like, oh. And you just realise it's not just an isolated problem. So even if you're looking into getting into this career and you don't think you want to be technical, you might want to be marketing or sales, we all still have an impact on security now, just like you would do for a building of an office. You don't leave the windows and doors open. It's now a digital platform. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As you kind of highlighted in your example as well. So, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
So it's not siloed approach. And again, another thing they have, like, oh, security, what do they want now? Because that kind of attitude. But we're not your enemies, we're kind of trying to get that middle ground. And again, you've probably heard in the industry as well. So there's often the balance, isn't it, between business and security. You have to get the right balance. You cannot have all the requirements, and then again, security, you cannot have too much security either, but get that right balance, then and you're good, because one have too much of everything. So achieving that balance is very kind of important, and everybody is in it together. So we're in this together, and we're not working against each other, or one's above the other, not that kind of attitude. So everybody's in this together. And again, that comes when the more and more organization becomes, culturally security aware, and that becomes part and parcel of everything that they do, rather than, tick box exercise, or audit wants it, a regulator wants it, not that kind of attitude, but you kind of bring it into everything that you do. Is a culture, basically. So if you set that out right, then then there's no tension between the departments, and everybody's aware, and that's what we do, and we think, and it becomes sort of, as I said, not just at work. As we are in this digital world, you need to be tuned in your personal lifestyle as well, so you don't become a victim on me like I did a while ago. So you don't kind of you're tuned in to what to look for, these red flags, for example, at work and outside work.
Interesting that you say that, because it is that thing, isn't it? That I know I've been sent some funny emails at perfectly good times, which would be, they know that I'm probably picking my daughter up at that time, and I'm distracted and I'm checking an email on my phone, and it's getting more and more sophisticated. But with the culture piece and having a mindset at work, and when you're outside of work or off the beat, how do you think we can start? I think it's second nature for us now, mostly, to lock our car and to lock our front door. That's kind of like we do that. And I mean, I go around and check that I've not let any lights on or things like that. Things have become second nature in culture from a security perspective, from our day to day, and, getting a taxi home and things like that. How do you think we can change the culture of how we approach our cybersecurity, so it's so drummed into us like it is our day-to-day living security? Do you think that's education in schools? Do you think that is, I don't know if I know the answer, but do you think there is some things that we need to be doing now so it becomes, second nature? Like, we do get taught to look left and right on the road and things like when we're kids. Do you think it needs to be something that gets brought in more?
Absolutely. That's a great question, by the way.
That's okay.
Absolutely. As you said, it should start from schools. And that's a great point as well. So it should start from then. And the more we talk, and your example was great as well. How do we know? We lock the car, even I have the habit. You press the button, I'll still go and
do you still go check it again? I'm so glad it's me. I still go, is that checked?
Why do we do that? Because we're aware that if you don't do it, there's theft, and, there's car theft everywhere. And people know about it. You don't leave it open, you're making it easy, even if it's locked, and it's so easy for people to kind of break in and take what they want, or even take the whole car.
I got taught by my dad really early on, never leave anything on a seat.
Yeah.
So I've got this really paranoid thing that I check all the seats and then put it in a glove compartment or in the boot, or because my dad was like, if they see something, they'll break in. And I know most things in my car is my kids' toys, and the chances are no one's going to break in for a kid toy. But my brain still goes, oh, don't leave that out just in case. It's weird, isn't it, how something gets drummed in? And
the way you knew is that your dad telling you constantly, don't leave that is temptation.
Yeah.
The same principle applies here. So the more we talk, the more awareness we create, and that's why I went back to the culture. The culture should be the more and more the organization, the leadership team talk to the business and whoever's involved, not just them, everybody in the organization, talk about it. And talk about it as in not just sort of like, this is what you must do, you should do, and you should follow, but talk about the impact, why you shouldn't do such thing. Like in your example, your dad said, don't leave it. I said, leave an item, by the dashboard or where it's more visible, because it's temptation. And, talk about the impact, why we're asking to do certain things or follow certain things. So the more we talk to them by way of sort of running awareness sessions or brown bag session, keep it informal as well. Sometimes if it's formal, people get different types of learning learners that are there, so you need to cater to every need as well. So organizations should look into kind of all of that sort of different behaviors and learning capabilities within their employees, and sort of implement learning and awareness program. They could even embed into when you onboard somebody, new employees comes in, or other learning, training and learning opportunities they have within the organization, embed security into it as part of that initiative. So the key message is keep talking to them. The awareness, the more aware they are, it will become the natural sort of, it will become then second nature to think about, oh, I shouldn't do that, in any way. Like, you would think twice before clicking on the link. I do not trust any link. Double check, triple check, and even do my own open source intelligence before even if it's unknown, to see if that person really exists. Or do I really have to ask the question, and at work and outside of work as well. So it applies everywhere.
We're talking about culture and second nature. You mentioned earlier that going into IT and tech wasn't your first choice. It wasn't the first thing in the front of your mind, like, that's what I want to do as a career. You also highlighted that you're so glad it went that way. What do you think could have happened, I don't know, in your childhood or at that point when you were deciding which way to go, that would have pushed you more down this route naturally? because obviously you thought, oh, I definitely want to go into medicine. So was it because women went into medicine, or was it because it was, or what was your experience?
It's the stereotype. You were spot on.
Okay, yeah, that's
So
interesting.
it's naturally everybody talks about it. The peer pressure. All the girls were talking. Yeah, I'm going to go into medicine,
Medicine.
or anything to do with arts and science. Mathematics. No way. I'm going that way.
That is really weird. You're the second podcast where
Uh,
we've talked about how girls all avoid mathematics. There's a problem here, ladies. We just don't like it.
I know. So yeah, it's just as you were spot on as a the general stereotype that women naturally go there, and the peer pressure, where at that point everybody was naturally going down that way. And besides that point, again, this goes back, decades ago. Computers, yes, they existed. We were still in, very much in the computer age at that point, but not so much as it is now. There was not a lot of sort of awareness or initiatives in schools where they talked about. So computer was just probably, if you took it as a subject, then you would learn about it, but everything else wasn't anything to do with computers. So the awareness wasn't there, what it entailed, what it was all about, what is technology, it wasn't spoken about that much. If they did more on that, I believe my natural choice would have been computers, because which, as I said, as a second choice, I took that
Yeah.
in university. So, but not in school. Yeah, if I had the exposure and opportunity in school, that I probably would have picked up computer as my natural first choice.
With that exposure, if you could be a teacher in a room now in front of aspirational people, or even they're being forced to take computer science, maybe, I don't know, everyone's a different, what key things do you think, do you wish you'd been told about the subject, or the impact that you could have, or why it's a good career?
Again, my perception at that
Mm,
time, computer means to do with coding, and
right.
me and coding, oof, no, miles away again. So as the perception is, like as I said, with security means people perceive that it's all technical, and
Yeah.
that's what my perception was, sort of computers, because there were a lot more to it. I naturally liked things about building stuff like servers, infrastructure side, whereas anything to do with programming, no, no. So it was all about computer or technology means programming. So I wasn't interested in that at all. And that was the perception. So it wasn't split out in a way that is more than programming. So if I was told or shown, what technology, computer and technology is all about
Yes.
beyond coding, that would have helped. And if I was a teacher now in front of pupils, then that's what I would split it out to them. So you got this, and it's more than this. So give them that, the broader features, or what it provides you as an opportunity, and it caters for everybody's needs, not just one area where people, where it just suits a certain group of people and not the others. Yeah, so
Do you think that's why maybe there's a lack of women in this industry? Because I know when I applied for the job with James, and statistically, apparently, women only apply for jobs generally if they can 100% do the job, and we're quite fearful where men is a lot lower, which I'm learning. But I remember when I applied here, and I had worked for agencies, and I dabbled in a little bit of reseller, but I turned up on my first day and didn't really know a lot, and I've learned loads and heaps from being here, but actually what they needed was a strong marketeer that could take a message and take it out to market. And I think if I had panicked about not understanding every single technology, I would have never have taken the job, and I would have never have taken on the opportunity. And yeah, and I'd be looking back at myself, I'd be devastated now. But do you think it's because we don't have a full understanding, and also it's a fear thing, and we think that we need to understand every element of the technology? Because like you said, I don't know if you can know everything in this industry.
yeah, totally agree. So again, it's probably a women thing. I agree with you on that. To give you an example, I was recently speaking to my sister-in-law. So she's working, well, she's a stay-at-home mum, and wanting to go back now. The children are older.
Yeah.
She wants to get back to work because she she's not in their life as
Of course.
as
She
much as
wants her
she
own
used to
thing.
be. So yeah, do her own thing. But she is afraid. She's looking for jobs, but oh, I don't think I can do that, as you said, because I have to satisfy 100% what the job description says. And is that mentality? And I was just telling her, okay, what did you do before you became, a stay-at-home mom? Okay, you had this, and then the current job description asks for this. Do they relate? It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It was customer focused, and her previous role was customer focused, but in a different industry. Yeah, it's still customer focused, and you still know how to handle customers. Easy, difficult, challenging,
She can
whatever that is.
handle her
It's
children.
transferable.
I mean,
Exactly.
I don't think
That's
us
the
women
difficult
ever like
part.
look into that. Like you
I
can you
know.
can you can manage these
Yeah,
children that never know what they want to eat. They're
yeah,
unsettled, and also you can look after them and keep them asleep with very little sleep. You're
yeah.
not looking after yourself generally.
You kept them
I think we
alive.
forget that. Yeah, you keep them
Yeah,
alive. Like I
yeah,
think when people you apply for jobs, there's so many things in a job description that as a mum you tick off anyway because you do those things. But yeah,
yeah.
I think career
You were
gaps.
absolutely right. And that's what I said to her. You
Yeah,
brought up two children and you can do everything. So
yeah,
go for it. So yeah, that still exists, unfortunately, but there is a small percentage of women who go for it. As you
yes.
said, yeah, I'm going to go for it because that's what I want, and focused, and they just go
Go
for it.
for it.
But unfortunately, a majority of us are still in the other cut where we can continuously look for, I don't satisfy 100%, and therefore I'm not ready, including my sister-in-law. I'm trying to convince her she should go for go for
She
it.
needs to go for it. Whatever she wants
Yeah,
to do, she needs to go for it. I agree. And there's I've read loads of recent reports that women in their early 30s take a massive confidence hit. And it's for many social reasons actually, whether we're not married or we are married, or if we have got married, we should have children, or if we've not had children, or if we have had like all these different outside things knock our confidence, which apparently has a huge impact. And they see a drop off of women between 30 and 40 not going for promotions and staying in their lane for a very long period of time, or they never go up.
yeah,
And it's quite scary between 30 and 40 how that has an impact. So if we're struggling to get women in tech already, and then if they are in tech, their confidence takes a hit at 30. I think there's
yeah.
a lot of stuff that can do. And for me, it's always connecting and having peers and mentors and other women to look up to. Has there been anyone during your career, and that could be male, I'm not saying it has to be of the same
Yeah.
gender, that has helped you or inspired you, or maybe it wasn't a mentor, maybe it was someone else or something that's kept you, I don't know, continually doing very well in your career?
Yes, my line manager in my not the current one, but the current one is also good.
Yeah.
My line managers have been great, particularly a nice lady I had, with one of the organization I worked for, and I've taken a lot of messages, and she inspired me, and she pushed me to kind of fulfill my fullest potential, and she would never say that's good. No, that's good enough. She always put me on. Sometimes I used to get frustrated at that point. Why is she not happy with everything I do? Because what she was trying to get was get the most out of, get me to kind of achieve my fullest potential. And she only opened up at one point because I was direct, and then asked, what can I do, to kind of, to get you to say, yeah, that's good. And I said, it's not that you're doing a bad job, Divya. I'm trying to get you to do more, because
Yeah.
I know you're capable of. So it helps having that kind of person, whether that person's your line manager or mentor, and I was lucky I had a line manager like that. But if you're not in that position, then look for somebody, you look up to or you inspire, within the organization, where it's like, oh, that person's really good and I like to kind of learn from them. Just go for it. And again, the organization have a mentorship program these days, so they're more and more aware in comparison to, a decade ago. So participate in those mentorship programs, and get and they all help. Like in my situation, my line manager was great in getting me to go for it, you know. So, and that's where my natural sort of kick into the leadership role started. And because I understood, although I was frustrated with the push, because, you know, as employees, you just want acknowledgement, I'm doing a good job, and that's good enough. And that wasn't good enough, because you kind of saw the potential in me and push, because if you wanted to be going up your career level, then you need to do, you know, what you need to do. And she saw that potential and pushed me for it. And I understood, when I understood, the reason why she did that, I just went for it. And I'm glad I did. And from there on, and, you know, grasp that concept, and then just going for it. Continuing to go for it. So hopefully, hopefully I'll get to where I want to be eventually. That's good. So, thank you.
So we're closing all the podcasts with asking 5 tips that you would give anyone that's listening right now, whether that is a woman or a man, that's looking to get into cybersecurity, into tech. What would be your 5 tips right now if someone was looking to move into the industry?
Okay. I'll go back to what I just said. No, go for it.
I think all of us have said that.
Just go for it. Technical, non-technical, whatever it is, just go for it. Whatever you want, go for it. And use the resources that we talked about. There's plenty of open source resources available. Equip yourself with as much knowledge as possible. Again, you know, be aware that nobody can know anything. If somebody said to you they know everything, do not believe them. So it's a constant learning journey. Everybody is in it together, and we're all learning together. And share your knowledge when you learn. So that's number 2. And number 3, network as well. So network with people.
Good.
And network with, you know, and this is, as I said before as well, this is a great industry where people are very willing, especially, you know, with sharing knowledge. So network, and, you know, that's a great way to learn, and keep learning. So, you know, keep yourself up to date, because there's this one thing about learning, that keeping yourself up to date is really, really important. So keep yourself up to date. Is that 4 points? And I have, the other one, I'll go back to what I said earlier as well. Use your current skills and apply security to it.
Use what you already know.
That would be my 5 points to share.
5 strong points. Well, thank you very much for giving me your time to chat with us and to open the conversation about why we love the industry that we're in, and why we hope more women want to join us, and that it's a great career path, and we're both getting great satisfaction out from your definitely more technical side to me on the marketing side. But yes, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll get to see you in person one day soon. Hopefully we'll be in London soon to come and see you. But thank you again for all your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dhivya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Speak soon. Bye.